Okay, we've got a guest that I see his name, and he might want to unmask himself because he's not a mystery guest. Sandy Rosenthal. He's running for Pima County Sheriff. He is a Tucson native and a United States Army veteran, a retired member of the Pima County Sheriff's Department. He served 36 years as a variety of roles as a deputy, sergeant, commander for the Pima County Sheriff's Department. Sandy says he comes to the candidacy with a vast knowledge and experience in administrative skills, tactical training, and understanding of the role of the sheriff. He is committed to service, teamwork, and keeping Pima County residents safe while planning proactivity for the safety of its citizens in the future. His initiatives are to support recruiting, hiring, and retaining employees, saving lives at the Pima County Detention Center, facilitating new options for school safety, and creating a safer community for all. Democrats of Greater Tucson welcome you, Sandy Rosenthal. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you. Sorry, all of you. Happy New Year. Hopefully everybody has a healthy new year. And for those of you that do not know me, my name is Sandy Rosenthal. I am running for Sheriff of Pima County. Before I get started and talk about my background and why I'm running and so forth, it is an important day to remember. We did have a mass shooting here in our community at the Safeway at Ina and Oracle. I was there literally minutes after it occurred because my wife was there getting her nails done. She was an assistant principal at a high school that was getting ready for the winter formal, and she had kids that were present, and she called me, and it's a long story, but she called me and I said, all right, hang up, and I dialed our communications and responded, and the story goes on from there. But it was a very sad day. It's something that we always have to remember, and something that we're responsible for. Meaning, we had opportunities to make sure this didn't happen, and we didn't take it. So again, I apologize to everybody. I feel, I certainly lost friends there that day. I did know a number of the people that did not make it. And so it is definitely tough. So please, we never want to forget this day. It's something that we should also try to make sure never happens in our community again. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running for sheriff. So as I talk about why I'm running and what this is all about, I believe, and so does my campaign committee, believe that this is going to be the most consequential local election we have this year. And the reason for that is your votes literally will decide people's lives. And what I mean by that is, we'll go back and we'll talk about the jail here in a bit, but people are dying, and that should not be happening. There is no reason for that. And I have every intention of making sure that that does not occur. So my background very quickly is I am a Tucson native. I was born at St. Mary's Hospital. I grew up here. I went to Palo Verde High School, left Palo Verde after graduating, went into the U.S. Army. I was a military police investigator, worked all over Europe, and then got out. Funny story, working at Montgomery Wards, waiting to start school. And the operations manager said, hey, if you go take the test for the sheriff's department, I'll pay your 8 hours of salary versus a 4-hour test. Well, 36 plus years later, that was what got me involved. Her son was a deputy sheriff. on the sheriff's department, and she wanted me there because she felt I was the right person to if her son ever needed any backup. So that's what started the career. And I've never looked back. I've worked all over the Pima County Sheriff's Department. I received awards for many different things within the Sheriff's Department. I have been a supervisor, a commander, and some of the important things that, and this is what plays out that I think you need to be aware of, and will play into our conversation as we go further on here. I'm the co-founder of the Sheriff's Auxiliary Volunteers. I put together a regional paramedic team, a regional SWAT team. I started the prescription drug program, getting drugs out of Green Valley homes when I was district commander down there. I put together a emergency vehicle preemption program, and I'll explain all that to you as we get into this. I also put something you never see is there's an emergency battery backup system in all county traffic lights, so that when power goes out, there's somebody there, the traffic light will still function, and we don't have to have deputy sheriffs there directing traffic. I have been, I've written many grants. I've been awarded, the department's been awarded over $2.5 million. And I'm responsible for designing the tactical range at the Pima County Sheriff's Department. So that's a little bit about my my background, investigations. There's very few areas within the department that I haven't actually worked. So that's my background. Now, why am I running? Well, first, I believe that our current sheriff, unfortunately, can be beaten by the Republican Party. He has a number of things that are not going right, and I do consider him a friend, a colleague, and but I have to be honest about it. It's things are not working. And the Republican Party has everything that, that I know, and probably more than what I know. So I feel that it's important for me to step in, to run for sheriff, to work on the issues, and there are many of them. We're going to talk about kind of what my platform is, and then there's a lot more as far as issues go that play out. So first, my platform. Law enforcement is a people's job. You have to have good, vibrant people involved in law enforcement. We have to go out and recruit, hire, and retain people. Next part of it is the jail. People should not be dying in the jail. We've had over 50 plus deaths associated with the jail. When elected officials start hiding information and not providing you, we have no idea how many people died in 2023 in the jail. That information has been removed. So it'll be incumbent upon reporters to ask questions and try to get those numbers. Third is schools. I'm a big believer in helping schools. I believe that if a school asks for a school resource officer, that there should be one available. There should be one to be part of the community. If a school wants to hire off-duty deputies, that they should be able to do that. Whatever a school community feels they need and how we can help, I'm all for that. And like I said, I've done a lot of crime prevention work, and I know about designing for safety. So there are a number of things there. my fourth thing is really it's the community. I've been out getting signatures, talking to thousands of people, been at many different events. The committee has more than enough signatures to get me on the ballot. That was finished up pretty much the beginning of December. So we are good there. Now we are in the process of fundraising and, obviously talking to the public. One of the things I enjoy very much is when I'm out getting signatures, and I will continue to do that literally till election day, or actually till our paperwork has to be turned in. But what happens is people give you ideas. People have the opportunity to express their opinions, their thoughts, and so I've enjoyed it. I literally at Tucson Meet Yourself, I sat down with a family for literally a half hour, and we spoke. The mother and father were pretty much listening. The son and daughter. So we have approximately a 21-year-old daughter, a 19-year-old son, and I talked to them about coming to work for the sheriff's department. I think I may have convinced the daughter to come work for the sheriff's department. The son was explaining to me that he is one of, and he was upfront about it, he was one of the illegal street racers. And I was explaining to him the dangers of that, talking to him about how his car could be destroyed, the effort that he put in. And then I explained to him that, when you become 21, that you could come to work for me at the sheriff's department, and I'll give you a car that you can, if you feel is appropriate, to respond to calls at high speeds, trying to get him to understand that you're not doing the right thing. I didn't have any success. I failed at it, and again, you can't win everything. But I did try. I spent a half hour explaining all the dangers, and they listened. But he probably still out there street racing. So the Republican Party is going to come after Sheriff Nanos. He said in July or June of this year on television on a Sunday show, he said that he needed to learn how to recruit. He was 2.5 years into this term. He had previously been chief deputy and sheriff. And if you don't have the ability and the knowledge to go out and recruit, that's a problem. And I have that knowledge. I have those skills. I have, as I said, worked all over the department. I have different skills than what the current sheriff has. And that is that I have many administrative skills that he never was involved in. I was in charge of personnel. I've been in charge of the academy, both deputies and corrections officers. I've been in charge of the range. I have those administrative skills, those administrative experiences in which to run the sheriff's department. Next, we have issues. The jail itself, the sheriff wants us to go out and spend $800 million on a new building. I'm not saying he's wrong. What I'm saying is that there are things that need to be done first before we can come out and say whether that's right or wrong. And part of that is that we need to have an engineering study done on the whole complex. Can we keep any of the old buildings and use those? What do we need to do? He put together a blue ribbon commission on the jail. That's the building of the structure. But my friend, unfortunately, something's happened with his moral compass. and I know he's going to get hit very hard by the Republican Party. He should have and should be doing everything to save lives at the jail. Where is the Blue Ribbon Commission having to do with the jail and saving people's lives at the jail? That should be taking place now. Back in what he probably hasn't told any of you is back in 2021, a memorandum from the county manager states specifically, and I'm not the only one that has this, it says that per the request of the sheriff, he asked that certain areas of the department of the corrections detention center be evaluated. Was it structurally sound? And 3 different companies looked at it. They took a number of months in which to evaluate it and decided that the building was structurally sound and that it needed repairs and maintenance. Those are important issues. So I'm not saying we don't need a new jail. I'm saying we have to look at the whole picture. The sheriff is ultimately responsible for everything that goes on at the jail, everything. And part of that is that when he fails to do his job appropriately, he very well could be in danger. And what I mean by that is that the federal government can step in here and sue us, the Sheriff's Department in Pima County, and we can end up with a consent decree. Maricopa County has been paying for Sheriff Arpaio, and again, elections have consequences. Sheriff Arpaio, for the last 7 years, they've paid out over $275 million to the federal government. They have not been able to get out from this court order. They're not even under a consent agreement. They're under a court order. So we have some serious issues. The current sheriff, under Farmer versus Brennan in the federal case, is responsible for the lives at that jail. And we know that the No More Jail Deaths have requested a federal investigation. Where that stands, none of us know. So there are a number of issues. The sheriff himself has said, and this is a quote, and the facility in the current conditions is not just unlivable for our inmates, but for me, it's a disgusting place to work. Okay, if that's the case, you got to do something about it. And no matter what, it's going to take us years to build a new jail. You got to keep that jail operational. You have to do the maintenance. You have to do the repairs. Those are all things that have to occur. So we have a number of those issues happening. Unfortunately, my friend again has many other issues. He had a sexual assault occur. The courts will decide whether that was criminal or not, whether or not it factually took place. And he's decided that the deputy who asked to have an internal affairs investigation, that's being postponed. Under my administration, that deputy would have every information she wants. Why? Well, first of all, she deserves it. And second of all, it's going to come out in court. The sheriff's department, the sheriff and some of his employees his command staff are being sued by her. And that, he may have been able to prevent it by providing the information. So the big picture of all this is that our sheriff is looking at us to spend $800 million for a new jail. We could end up spending $275+ million under a consent decree. We already have lawsuits from the deaths at the jail. I don't know how much people are aware of, but a federal judge has already accepted one of the lawsuits, and that lawsuit is moving forward. Investigation is being done, and again, those are all costs to us, the taxpayers. We want to try to prevent those types of things from occurring. So a number of different issues that are happening. And I don't quite understand what my friend is doing. He was talking to, he was being talked to by Luminaria, the newspaper, for those of you that are familiar with it. And they asked him about the jail. And this is his quote and response. Nanos, when asked in late October interview about contacting families, told the Arizona Luminaria, I have an obligation to not just those families who lost loved ones, but also to this agency in this county. He added that they always have my condolences. Next, he said, I just believe it's inappropriate for the sheriff or any elected official to reach out to a family who lost a loved one to say he's sorry. I'm sorry, I disagree with him. If I become sheriff, every one of those families that want to meet with me who lost loved ones in the jail, I will meet with. All this stuff comes out in court. It's the same as the sexual assault case. In court, the basics of this case will be that when deputies responded, when commanders were notified, did it take 80 minutes for them to respond? And when people ask me about it, I explain it this way. If you as a citizen observed a sexual assault occurring and you called, and it took law enforcement 80 minutes to get there, you'd be very upset. So this deputy is just asking the questions of what went on from the time my fellow deputy made a phone call saying that there was a sexual assault occurring. I think that's a just request. I think that should be answered, and it should never have gotten to a lawsuit. So those things will come out when the deputies arrive to get her out of the house. That house should be secured, a search warrant obtained, and again, we'll just have to wait and see what evidence was found inside that residence. So we'll await the court's the court case and see what happens coming up in the next few months as to what transpired. So again, I'm running against my fellow Democrat, my friend, my coworker, but it's the right thing to do. And so when my friends, my Democratic friends say to me, why are you running? That's why. He's beatable by the Republican Party, and they're going to come at him hard. And I think I'm the best candidate, not just in the Democratic side, but also the Republican side. My resume is superior to all, including the current sheriff. So I believe I'm the right person. I want to do the job. There's my committee likes to say this is the 4 R's, and what it is when you see either my website or one of my cards, it says right time, right reason, right choice, And their fourth is, it says Rosenthal for sheriff. So I'd love to answer your questions. I'm sorry that we had some technical problems getting this started and I had to switch computers. But I'm here to answer your questions. I'm would certainly like your support, and let's see if we can get this done together. There are many, many more issues to come. We need to talk about the border. We need to talk about firearms. Where do I stand on some of these things? And there's retail theft. There's just a myriad. You have to be somebody who's able to be involved in many different aspects of our community. I'm not special. What I have done in the past is that I have the ability to work with people. I had to, when I put together a preemption program, when I put together a regional SWAT team, I had to work with city councils. I had to work with attorneys. I had to work with police chiefs. And then I had to teach people what we needed to do to accomplish all of this. So all these things are things that I've done. I believe I have the skills. Will I make some mistakes? I will. My department, when I run the department, if we do something that's incorrect, I'll tell you so. I don't have anything to hide. So if I can answer questions, I'd love to.
Some suggest that data on school resource officers shows they're not effective nor cost efficient. What other tools can the sheriff's officer use to assist and protect schools?
Sure, that's a great question, and that's why, first of all, you heard me say that we leave it up to the school. It's not me saying you need to have a school resource officer. It's up to the school themselves to decide what they need. So some of the things that can be done, we have some modern electronic items. Here's a perfect example of one. You can literally in the schools at a reasonable cost today, put cameras in the schools that are not live. And what I mean by that is that those cameras only go live when somebody dials 911. Otherwise, nobody's looking at them, nothing happens, but it helps law enforcement. We can also help to make some changes by evaluating each school from a perspective of crime prevention. Crime prevention, we used to do this years and years ago, and sometimes old things work. We live in a modern world, but sometimes old designs and ideas work. Schools were never intended to protect the students, and so we have to make some changes. So those are some of the things that we can do, and working together with our community, we can make those changes and help protect our kids at school. There's nothing more important than our children at school.
Kat Stratford follows on the school resource officer question, saying that school resource officers are heavily associated with higher arrest rates of children, particularly racial minorities and disabled children. If the school was to request school resource officers, what can you do to provide those officers in such a way and with such training that it doesn't feed into the school to prison pipeline?
Perfect question. Actually, absolutely excellent question. Schools, as we said, if they make a choice to have a school resource officer, first of all, the school resource officer is not there for issues dealing with discipline at the schools. They're there for safety. They're there for kids to get to know an officer from the very beginnings of their early lives, and then also to be part of the community. Training school resource officers, I am a huge believer in training, not just of particular jobs, but all jobs within law enforcement. So training our school resource officers will be one of our major concerns. We have that ability here. I mean, just think, if you think about it, the University of Arizona had a professor recently, shot and killed at work. Well, again, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We have wonderful resources here in our community. We can sit down with the people that were involved in that whole discussion about how better to protect students at the university. Well, we can do the same here in our community by using the university, by using Pima Community College. I mean, the toughest thing for any school resource officer, any principal, in making a decision is, when is it a law enforcement issue and when is it a school issue? And that's a tough choice. That's hard on everybody. But a school resource officer also, or deputy at school, can be a wonderful tool for principals, because they don't have to worry about the knowledge of law enforcement. They can bounce questions off that school resource officer. Go ahead.
Brian Johnson asked in the chat, are there alternatives to incarceration? Do we really need a 3,000 inmate jail?
I do have a plan. It's like anything else. We have to work together as a community. I'll start with this. If the jail is to continue as the place to house people with mental health, with drug abuse problems, I'm going to make sure they get the very best services. I don't believe that's the right place. They shouldn't be there. But if that's what happens, so if I might say it in this way, a judge is sitting there trying to decide whether somebody should be released or not released. The easiest thing for that judge to do is to say, no, you're staying in the jail. The hardest thing for that judge to do is to say, you know what, I'm going to release you. We, the public, you got to remember, here in Pima County, Maricopa County, we actually vote on retaining judges. And if that judge makes a mistake, their career could be over with. So I have a plan in which we help. And what I mean by that is people that we can get out of jail with the judge's permission, with their attorneys, with the prosecutors. We have deputies, social workers involved. There's a group of people that are released from the jail who are sent home. They've committed crimes, but nobody is paying attention to them. We all know about somebody that's been sentenced and how they have a probation officer. Mm-hmm. What happens in law enforcement? So having social workers with us. What happens if we try to keep people from being rearrested? Well, I think that's something that we need to try. And I am the type person that if somebody has an idea of how to keep people out of jail, and it's something that we can give a try, we'll try it. I don't have to be the smartest person in the room. I just need to be able to make decisions, give opportunities, and we may try 2 or 3 or 4 different things, but we're going to try them.
Okay. Claudia Miller wants to know, she actually is interested in what your stance is regarding the sheriff's office's involvement in border safety and border enforcement.
Sure. First of all, I believe none of our citizens should ever be victims of crime. So where I stand is that if, as you know, the Supreme Court has said that this is a federal issue, we will be down there protecting our citizens. We will be down there protecting the people that enter our country illegally. That's the only way I can say it is. There's laws that say you can't enter this country illegally. So we will be there supporting all, including the fact that the groups that are out trying to save lives of people that have illegally crossed,
Mm.
we're going to be there to support them also. Because again, we don't do that in this country. People just, again, it's no different. You commit a crime crossing the border, you commit a crime and you go to the Pima County Jail. Now, you should be safe. That should not, nobody should die because of that. And so it's the same issue. Our job is to protect people and make sure that people are safe. So again, we will be down there. We will not be stopping people because we can't. But will we be protecting people? Absolutely.
Yeah, I just want to point out that in fact, crossing the border itself is a civil infraction. It's not
Correct.
a criminal act. Smuggling somebody across the border is a criminal act.
Absolutely.
Um, Connected to that, what is your position on ICE officers in jails and Operation Stone Garden? Also, could you explain a little bit what Operation Stone Garden consists of?
So Operation Stone Garden's been around for many, many years. I'm going to come back to ICE here in just a minute, but Stone Garden, I think, is an important issue and stuff. Stone Garden plays out that the federal government is providing money. When it originally started, it was to supplement law enforcement agencies along the border because we were taking, we were dealing with issues associated with people crossing the border. And so that was what the original plan was. That's how it started for many years. Then, of course, like anything else, things occur and attorneys get involved and other people, and the grants themselves change. Well, what people don't understand and people don't know, it comes with experience, is that when you are offered a grant from the federal government, you can request some changes in that grant. I will always read a federal grant and make sure that it meets our standards. So part of that is that, do I support taking money, our tax dollars, from the federal government to help our community? Yes, I do. Do I support using it in the wrong way? No. So both areas can be done appropriately. ICE agents inside our jail, nah, we don't, that's not appropriate. I do want people to be aware, though, long before this ICE issue came up and so forth, one of the questions when you were booked into the jail was always, what community, what citizenship do you have? That's been around for 50 years. And that question has always been asked. So again, we're not looking to deport people. We're looking to keep our community safe. And I don't care whether you're legally in this country, illegally in this country, if you commit a crime, we're going to deal with it because everybody deserves to be safe.
Following on that, I'm no expert on Stone Garden, but it is my understanding that Stone Garden funds from the federal government are contingent upon having ICE agents in the jails. Is that correct, or am I misinformed?
I'm not aware of that. If that has been added, then I would end up asking that it be removed because there's no reason for ICE agents to be in the jail. Yeah, that should not be allowed.
And you alluded to some improper or bad uses of Stone Garden funds. Could you elaborate on what might be an improper use of Stone Garden funds in your view?
Sure. We will not, people that cross the border illegally, we will not be going after them to detain them for Border Patrol. That's not what this is all about. again, they enter the country. We want to protect all our citizens, all people entering this country. And so having the responsibility of going after people, nah, we're not doing that. That's not our job.
And one last question in the chat. Carolyn Clausen wants to know if we know at this point who the Republican candidate for sheriff will be, and if Napier is running again.
Napier is not. There are 2 or 3 candidates on the Republican side. I do know who they are. One is actually a former lieutenant from the Sheriff's Department. Another one is a current member of the Sheriff's Department, and that creates its own issues. And I believe there's one other candidate. I do not know who that person is.
Okay, well, we have a hand up. Mike Humphrey, you've been very patient. So what's your question for Sandy Rosenthal?
Hi, Sandy. Thank you for your presentation. It's been very informative, so I appreciate it. I have a couple of questions related to gun violence prevention. The first question is, would you support as sheriff local enforcement of ARS 133102, which is the state statute that deals with you cannot sell or transfer a firearm to a prohibited possessor? And then I also would like to know if you are sheriff, would you support increased enforcement of 3101, which is the prohibited possessors, in terms of making sure that those people surrender their firearms?
So let's go back to the first question, which is, if you're a prohibited possessor, you betcha. We're gonna do everything we can to take that firearm away from you. You have no business having a firearm. I'll give you an example. You can't always win the big picture. You have to take baby steps. So as an example, I get asked all the time, people are selling guns at the gun show out at the fairgrounds. 80% of people, in my belief, believe that background checks should be done. I'm sorry to get away slightly from your question, but 80% of people believe background checks should be done. Well, there's nothing in federal law that says we, the public, can't do the same thing that a licensed firearms dealer is required to do. It doesn't restrict us. It's an administrative policy. If we can just get that one change made, that starts the ball rolling, which is, hey, ATF, let us call in, let us email, let us have the ability to do a background before I sell a gun to somebody. That's a simple thing. They've been doing that for years and years and years. Open it up to the community. So yes, we would take guns from people that are illegal possessors. Can you give me the second question one more time?
It's regarding people that come into gun shops and otherwise buy firearms for persons who are not legally able to own them, basically the straw purchasers. Right now, the people that buy the firearms are not being held accountable. If the gun is involved in a crime, maybe the person who sold it to the person who killed the person is drawn into the case, but the person, for the vast majority of these cases, the person who goes into a gun show and buys a bunch of firearms, either for a prohibited possessor or a cartel, is not held accountable by the ATF.
Absolutely. For many years, we had deputies assigned to different federal groups and stuff. Certainly, we come across something like that. Again, that's getting to know your community. When you have dealers, when you have events going on where guns are being sold, if the community gives us a call and says, hey, people are buying guns, they shouldn't be, here's the story. We will investigate that. We will get ATF. We will join ATF on those
Exactly.
situations. So yes,
Yeah,
be involved.
that's a great, thank you. I'm really glad to hear you say that. It's time that we really hold people that are arming the bad guys accountable for arming the bad guys.
Agreed. And again, we're only one portion of the law enforcement world, meaning that judges have to do their part also.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, Bridget, you've been very patient. So what's your question for Sandy?
Hi, Sandy. My name is Bridget Richechi, and I'm wondering if you can describe, or I should say, explain your position on reproductive choice and why you hold that position.
Well, that's interesting. I'm not sure how that really pertains to law enforcement at this point. I
I
guess.
can give you an example of that, but why don't you go ahead?
No, go ahead. Give me the example.
No.
Okay, so I guess I'm a believer that first of all, I'm a male, and I don't believe that I should be telling a woman what they should or shouldn't do with their body. So does that kind of explain where I stand?
Yes, and I will give you an example, although it's possible I could be wrong, and I'm sure there are others on this call who might correct me. But the Pima County Attorney's Office, for a period of time, and maybe even now, made a decision to not enforce a particular law that was on the books related to abortion because there were two conflicting laws, and Chris Mays backed this up as well. But in a case like that, it could be that the sheriff would decide, oh no, we are going to prosecute an individual physician and a patient.
Well,
So
we don't do the
murky.
we don't do the prosecution,
Right,
obviously.
but you do the enforcement.
Correct. And would we be involved in that? Not likely. I mean, again, when you're talking about something like this, what you're doing is you have medical privacy. There are a ton of issues that it becomes what takes precedence here. I mean, it's kind of like the same issue of if somebody, we're not going to, I guess, can we go a little bit longer on time?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So the reality of this is that there are so many different laws involved in this that I wouldn't step into it. That's that again, in my belief, that's a decision between a doctor and the woman. I again, I stay out of that. I really don't have involvement in it.
Okay, that's good to know because it's a little murky out there. So thank you.
There's so much that's murky out there. It is absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, Kat Stratford, you have our last question of the day.
Hi.
Hello, thank you so much. Sorry, I had a little pop-up there. So I had a follow-up question from Bridget's question, because she gave a great example, but we've seen women arrested now for having a miscarriage, famously. Like there's a woman who is sitting in jail right now because she suffered a miscarriage and nurses called the law enforcement arrested her. Now we have the reassurance that the prosecutor will not be making moves on that. But what about your officers? Are your officers going to get involved in things like that?
No.
Because, so just to clarify my question,
Sure.
the case, and I cannot recall this woman's name or what state she's from, but she went to a hospital because her water had broken. She was a few weeks before viability. So this was a big deal. She was suffering a miscarriage. She was told that she was having a miscarriage, but she was told that the baby's heart was still beating. So they couldn't do anything about it. So they sent her home. At home, she suffered a miscarriage. And unfortunately, she miscarried while she was in the bathroom and wasn't aware. There was a lot of blood. There was a lot of stuff happening. So she wasn't aware that she had actually.
Yeah, let me explain this to you. In law enforcement, there are times where we take no action, meaning that you may get called to something. That doesn't mean we can document things that occur. And then we take it to the prosecutors and say, hey, this is what happened. Do you want to proceed on it? Do you need more investigative work done on it? So it doesn't mean that just because we're called to some situation or some scene that one, we have to make an arrest. Some things do require us. It's in the law that we make an arrest. But a lot of things don't. We document it, and then we, again, turn it over to the prosecutor's office. So the county attorney, I'm a type person that I believe, and we haven't even talked about it, which is that I believe in working within the system. And so as an example, we talked about the jail and how I believe that we might be able to get some people out of the jail that don't belong there by having deputies, officers, social workers pay attention to this group of people. I also talked about the firearms, that there's no law that says we can't, as a citizen, call ATF and do these different things. So I guess what I want to bring to your attention is that we don't take action at everything we show up to. And we get a call. Do we respond? Absolutely. It goes back to schools. And I'll give you another example. If a school principal is never wrong for calling law enforcement, it doesn't mean that we're going to take action. It means that we're documenting something. So there's a lot that's involved in law enforcement. And I tell you, I didn't even know that was still on the books, because when I go to my copy of Title 13, I didn't see that. So again, we all, I would even have to research it because, again, don't know it factually. So thank you. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, Mike, any last questions in the chat room?
Let's see here. Bill Swan asks if you have a position on a federal assault weapons ban.
So I would answer it this way. I don't have a position on it. And the reason why, my friend Sherrif Nanos believes that nobody should have guns other than law enforcement. I don't take that stance. I believe that people, if they want to have a firearm and they know and have the ability to keep it safe, that's their choice. So when it comes to assault weapons, if you want to keep something like that and you're safe at your house, I believe it's, it's okay. I'm not making the laws. I will stand up and talk about laws that affect law enforcement, but I'm not going to be out there recruiting or supporting things that don't involve law enforcement. That's up to the people that we elect to make laws. You know, I attended the meeting where Arizona Luminaria had with talking about deaths at the jail, and an ACLU attorney and I had a conversation, and he said, you know, it's kind of disingenuous when you have somebody up at the legislature supporting certain things that you're not involved in the making of laws and so forth. And okay, you're right. I guess you are right. It is somewhat disingenuous when you have people there. But am I going to come out and support a ban on assault rifles? No. If you can legally own them, if you can keep them safe, you know, again, that's what our laws say. And I'll support the law. I'll focus on the law.
Okay, well, what a great meeting and lots of great participation, yes. And let's hear it for Sandy Rosenthal, candidate for sheriff in Pima
Thank you.
County. We appreciate you. We've all had problems with technology, so you know, we kind of related with you. You fixed it. And but what so many great questions, inspirational sharing. You all have a great week. We'll have a great program next week on Martin Luther King Jr. Day.